Hello, everybody. Welcome here to the Prog Monster. I'm just going to pull my chair up a bit. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So, into the Progverse. This is a show that I do every Sunday now. Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk about some aspect of progressive rock. And today I've decided to go with my King Crimson collection. So I went through them all this last couple of weeks between episodes of my last collection, and I listened to all my King Crimson stuff, which is good because most of it, at least the first five have all been in my playlist. This one's currently in my playlist. And the other ones that I have, the other four, plus the live album, well, the live album I've listened to, but the other four I had only listened to once before, and during this week I listened to them all again. King Crimson, I've kind of said this before, I'll say it again. So if mainstream music is pop music at the middle of the line, then you've got progressive rock that kind of goes just to the right of that. And then you've got bands like probably Pink Floyd that's right of that. And you've got bands like Gentle Giant, which are right of Pink Floyd. And then you have King Crimson as far right as you can go. Now, I don't mean that in a political sense. I mean that in a musical sense. So their music is sometimes very hard to absorb, at least for me. It took me almost 40 years to get to a stage where I actually liked the band. And it wasn't from lack of people pushing on me to listen to them. I said, these guys are too far out in the left field, well, right field or whatever, too far out there for me to grasp. And I never kind of went all in on them at all. In fact, I tried to avoid them. Plus, I had this kind of stupid thing that I always had as a kid where if I liked somebody and then somebody took somebody away, or I perceived that somebody wronged somebody, or if a musician I liked dumped on somebody I liked or whatever, I would get a resentment towards them, even though it had nothing to do with anything. And most of the time I was resentful about something that already happened years before. And so in the case of King Crimson, it was Bill Bruford. So I was a big Yes fan. Went from drama backwards in their discography and started listening to their stuff. And then my friend told me, oh, Bill Bruford left the Yes after the Close to the Edge album and went to join King Crimson. I got an instant resentment about that. I didn't like that. But when that piece of information came to my my wherewithal, when somebody actually told me about this, it was already 1983 and it had happened 11 years prior to that. And so I was getting mad about something that was like a decade in the past, but it wasn't atypical of me in that time period. So when I think I had that a little bit of that going on against King Crimson for the longest time too, and then eventually I just stopped thinking about the band, and decades passed, and when I started this channel, they were one of the first progressive bands that I felt like I needed to explore. So I went out and I bought this album, which is going to be the first album we're going to talk about here. But I am going to put my glasses on because I'll need them to see what I'm talking about. So this album came out in 1969. Actually considered to be, by many people, I believe, and generally viewed in the prog community as being kind of the first head-on progressive rock album. So the grandfather of prog rock here. The album cover is quite good, very abstract. Sorry. Very abstract art, but quite well done. I do like the back part too, where they show his ear, and his ear is like way the hell over there. So I'm going to take the booklet out so you can see better. Yeah. Obviously, listening to prog has rotted his brain, right? So in this band, or on this particular album, not sure why I'm putting it back in. I'm probably going to have to take it out again. You got 5 tracks. 21st Century Schizoid Man, which includes Mirrors. Talk to the Wind, Epitaph, which includes Marching for No Reason and Tomorrow. Moonchild, including The Dream and the Illusion. And last but not least, In the Court, or The Court of the Crimson King, including Return of the Fire Witch and Dance on the Puppet. So those are, I guess, what you would call suites from the album. I don't know why I put them in. For some reason, pretty much all of them, about 90% of my CDs for King Crimson are all pink for some reason. Not really sure why. This is the original Masters edition, which was released in September 2004. And you'll notice with almost all the King Crimson albums, they got this kind of newspaper print on the inside of the album where the songs are talking about various aspects of King Crimson. I do like this picture. Almost wish this was the cover. It's kind of stupid, though. Oh, sorry. Damn. Yawning and sneezing. They seem to be my forte whenever I'm in front of the camera. I'm not really sure why that is the case. Maybe it's a nervous habit that I'm not even aware of. Anyways, yeah, so almost all of this particular page has like all the lyrics with that thing, but almost all the pages have this newsprint in them throughout it, talking about the album and the band, various different top 10 LP things and whatever. Yeah, so pretty good. So on here we have, and I'm going to discuss, we got Robert Fripp, of course, the leader, founder, and the architect of King Crimson here. You've got, of course, Greg Lake doing most of the vocals. I think he does all the vocals, actually. It doesn't really tell you anything about what they do, but I know from watching them what it is that's going on. And I believe Ian McDonald's on here. I do not remember the drummer, though. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on him. And then you've got Peter Seinfeld, who does the lyrics. So he's a part of the band, even though basically he just does the lyrics. And I think he does some electronic stuff, but that's about it. So this is, of course, their debut album. Many people consider this to be... Oh, I didn't put it back in right, of course. There. Oh, now it's out of place on the upper part. Can't seem to get it. There we are. Don't seem to be able to get these two bottom ones to go at the same time. There it is. Anyways, so many people consider this to be, I guess, King Crimson's opus magnus opus, their best album. It's probably my favorite, but I've only worked about halfway through their discography. So the back half of their discography I haven't really listened to in any kind of sustained effort at this point in time. So at this moment, this is probably my favorite. Yeah, it came out in '69, so it's been a while. You'll probably see this album in my series I'm running for the month of July, which is my 31 favorite my 31 favorite albums released in 1969. I'll be very surprised if that one isn't in there. The next album out is this one. The artwork is kind of almost, it's good, but it's almost kind of childish in some ways too. So you've got 6 here, and then if you look at the back, you have another 6. 12 characters in all from the Poseidon. So this album is, of course, entitled In the Wake of Poseidon. This was their second LP. Of course, again, it's pink. Like I said, they all are. This one I don't think is as pink. I think it seems to be pink light, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't know. So, again, they got that same stuff going on here. It's all written. 2 members break from King Crimson. Ian MacDonald, of course, one of them, and I believe the drummer, Mike Giles. Yeah, it was Mike Giles, sorry. Couldn't remember who it was. And actually, Greg Lake left too, but he did come back to do the vocals for the album, even though he was, at this point in time, doing his own thing with Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. I actually like this album quite a bit. I didn't think I would, but to me, this one is, despite the fact that almost all of the members have changed on here already. So you've basically got Robert Fripp, Seinfeld, and Greg Lake here, and then you've got a couple of new guys coming into play on it, and it doesn't tell me who they are, and I can never keep track of all these people. There is a shot here somewhere in the book. Yeah, here it is. Mel Collins, yeah, of course. Forgot about him. And Gordon Haskell are also on this album. But despite, the obvious changes to the album in such a short period of time, there is not a lot of difference between these two albums. I think they're very similar in a lot of ways, a lot of similar sounds to them. I do like this album a lot. Can't read the tracks on here because they've written it in this. And this is the biggest problem with King Crimson, is that everything is written on top of color that you can't see, or very tiny and you can't read it, and the writing on the inside doesn't tell you much. So I'm not sure why they went with that. Maybe just to aggravate people. This is a 30th anniversary edition as well, released in 2004. It's pretty good. I do like it. I like the sound of it. I like it better when it doesn't come flying out, though. So you got some decent stuff on here. Peace, a beginning. Pictures of a city, including 42nd at Treadmill. I'm not sure what that exactly means. Candace and Cascade, In the Wake of Poseidon, including Libra's theme. Peace, a theme. Cat Food, fantastic tune. It might be my favorite King Crimson song. Absolutely love it. The Devil's Triangle, including Murday Morin, Hand of Skiron, Garden of the Worm. And then it ends up with the last track, which is called Peace and End. And then there's a couple of bonus tracks on this particular one too. So yeah, very good. I do like the artwork quite a bit. Pretty strong album, I think. Probably for a bit there, I think I liked it a little bit more than in the Court of the Crimson King, but I think it's kind of flipped back again over the last week or two. Last year or two. Get the time right. So then their third studio album, which I believe was released in 71. It's probably not going to tell me that. Nope, 1970. So these two, I believe, came out the same year, 1970. Lizards. So this is my first kind of book one. So most of them are most of the ones I have are either jewel cases or these kind of booklet things with the black thing. And so the black one, those ones I bought as a collection on one particular day. As you can see, it's a typical pink color. Oops, sorry, over here. This album was the first one that was a little bit of a disappointment for me. The artwork on this, though, is great. It's very detailed. As you can see, I can never quite figure out which side is up. Yeah, here we are. So it says King here with the letters. You can figure it out if you look at it closely. And then you have Crimson on the other side. Lots of different stuff going on here. This one does have all the lyrics written on the inside cover here, which is good. Of course, there's no newspaper print here. At least I don't think there is. But let's look at the book. Nope, actually I was wrong. More of that writing stuff. So 3 new boys join the King's Men. In incoming McCulloch. So out goes Gordon Haskell and Andy McCulloch are out of there. And I believe actually I'm wrong. So in comes, Robert Fripp and Pete Seinfeld are left on this album, and in comes Gordon Haskell as the singer, drummer Andy McCulloch, and can't remember the other guy, and I'm not seeing his name here either. Anyways, in they come, and you get a almost totally different sound on this album than you get with any of the other albums, like either of the first 2 albums. It doesn't sound like either of them at all. I actually had a really difficult time listening to this album. I just find there's no rhythm. It's not really rhythmatic at all. It sounds like just a collection of noises at times. Other times there's some decent stuff going on here, but for the most part, I've had a very difficult time penetrating this album. It was in my playlist for a while. I kind of kept it in as long as I thought was reasonable till I started getting tired of it and then pulled it. But I just haven't warmed to this album, although I do like the album cover and stuff quite a bit. So that's Lizards. So the next album out in my collection, I believe this one was released in 71, but I will check to make sure. Again, it's got the pink album cover, little booklet here. This is a jewel case one. It's the one, I bought this one kind of separately from the other group of them. So this, and of course, it probably will not tell me when this was released. Oh, actually, I think it was released in 72. So they had a bit of a break after this one, and then they had about a year off, and then they came back with this one, Islands. This is a different album as well. I'm trying to see who came in. Very difficult to keep track of all these things. I'm not seeing anything about anybody. The only thing about it is Seinfeld quit after this album as well. So that would just leave Robert Fripp as the sole original member. This album, it was the first one that I own of King Crimson. I didn't really like it at first. Lizards, I didn't dislike it. It wasn't catching me very well. But this one, I just didn't like. I do like the album cover quite a bit. There are 6 tracks on this. Formentera Lady, Sailor's Tale, The Letters, Ladies of the Road, Prelude, Song of the Gulls, and then Islands. It's okay. I kind of warmed up to it a bit after it'd been in my playlist for a while, but it still never really hit a full stride with me. And even after listening to it the last week or so, I still don't have much of an interest in the album. So then we had 2 really good albums, like absolutely killer albums, and then 2 very mediocre albums, at least in my opinion. So then we move on to this album. So when I did the playlist originally, I had this one as their 4th. I had mixed it up and put this one as the 4th release and then Islands. So they were reversed, but ultimately this album is their 5th one. Released in 1973. This is, of course, a book one as well. It's got all the lyrics on it, which I enjoyed quite a bit. This is actually the first one that kind of gives you a list of who's on the album. And this may be my favorite lineup for King Crimson. David Cross, Robert Fripp, John Wetton, Bill Bruford, and Jamie Muir here. I do like this album quite a bit. So for me, it was kind of a bounce back after those two previous albums that I didn't like. And I actually believe this is, I always get these two mixed up as to what was released when. I think this is actually their fifth album, though. So we're going to stick with that. Lark's Tongues and Aspic Part 1. So this, actually, I know what I did. I put this as their fourth release, and the Islands is their fifth, but they're actually the reverse. So Islands came out fourth. This one came out fifth. This is a very good album. It's got a lot of different sounds to it. Of course, there's quite a bit of that kind of jazz fusion going on, which is difficult for me. I'm not really a big fan of that type of music, but there's enough prog stuff on here that I really like it. The opening track, Lark's Tongues in Aspic Part 1, and the last track, Lark's Tongues in Aspic Part 2. I love both those tracks. They're fantastic. The Book of Saturday, I like that too. Easy Money's pretty good, and then the Talking Drum is kind of funny. But I like it. Overall, this is a pretty solid album. I think it's probably my third favorite at this point in time. I did mess it up a bit by moving it around, but still a really good album. There's a nice shot of them all too, which is nice. And of course, it does come with a booklet, as they all do. Maybe I've got the book. Yeah, I've got the book and the album in the same spot. It's supposed to be in different spots, but as you can see now, this you see it's on the album as well. This kind of picture they have here is very much when I see this anywhere, immediately it's like a label for King Crimson. And of course, again, you see the same stuff going on here, same notes. This one, though, does give you a breakdown of people in the band. You can see all 5 of the musicians. David Cross, violin, flute, and mellotron. Robert Fripp, guitars, mellotron, and devices. John Wetton, bass, guitar, violin, and vocals. Bill Bruford on drums. And Jamie Muir doing, I think he did a lot of the percussion stuff as well. Anyways, John Wetton, a nice return. Maybe the reason I kind of like this is because he has a very similar vocal sound as Greg Lake, and so it was kind of pleasing to my ear. And yeah, just a great album, I think. Fantastic. So that's their fifth album. So their sixth album is currently just entered my playlist. King Crimson, Starless, and Bible Black. 6 tracks, 7 tracks, 8 tracks on this one. I think the last 2 tracks are both instrumentals. I could be wrong, but I believe they are. So you got David Cross here, violins, viola, and keyboards. Robert Fripp, guitars, mellotron, and devices. John Wetton on bass and vocals, and Bill Bruford on percussion, or drums and percussion if you prefer. This is a nice album. I like the color scheme to it. Very different. Of course, it's got the same pink stuff going on as all the other albums have had up till this point. Also, its book is here too. Once again, you're going to get all of that newsprint stuff. So this is the kind of the very complex time period for King Crimson. Not that they haven't been complex all along, but the addition of John Wetton to this band really gives them some serious instrument dominance here with Bill Bruford and John Wetton, as well as Robert Fripp. I believe that from what I haven't read all this, but I've been told that John Wetton and Bob Fripp did not part on the best of ways, which is understandable. I find Robert Fripp to be somewhat eccentric and a very difficult person, I think, to work with. But Bill Bruford seemed to get along very well with him. But yeah, I do like this part too. It's kind of interesting. So this is new for me. I've just started listening to it. I think I'm going to like it quite a bit. The Great Deceiver, Lament, Well, Let You Know, the Night Watch Trio, the Mincer at Starless and Bible Black, and then Fracture, which is the final track on here. A very complex album, lots of complex stuff. And this one came out in January of 1974. So they've been moving along, 6 albums already. I think they just didn't have the commercial success that some of the other bands that are more notable had. Hello, Grandizer. Welcome. Yeah, that last sub is taking a time. It's sweet time about it. It went up to 99, I think, on Wednesday, and then dropped down to 97 as early as yesterday, and then came right back up to 99 last night, and here we are. So the next album out that I want to talk about is this one, Red. I like the cover. It's a little bit different from most of the covers. There's actually members of the band on the cover. I don't think any of the other covers have anything like that. This is the only one that I can think of that's like that. So I own all but 3 of their studio albums, Beat and 2 of the later ones, which I can't remember the names for. So this one, basically Jamie Muir and David Cross have gone by this time, and you're just left with 3. Robert Fripp, guitars and mellotron, John Wetton, bass and voice, and Bill Bruford on percussion. And I think David Cross does do some violin, Mel Collins some soprano sax, Ian McDonald also sax, Rob Miller oboe, and Mark Cherig on cornet. So they're all in there doing just various little bits for the band. But it's basically a 3-man band at this point. This album has Red, Fallen Angel, One More Red, Nightmare, Providence, and Starless. So there's only the 5 tracks on this album. Again, of course, it's going to show you. Just again, sorry, it's got this little black cover with a pink album cover again. Same as all the other ones, no difference. So this one I've only listened to when I first got it, and then just this week for the second time. I like this one. It's seems a bit heavier than the others. It's just an observation. I'm not saying it is. I've only listened to it twice, so but I get this kind of a bit of a heavier feel to it, and of course, once again, you got John Wetton's great vocal parts on here. It's fantastic. So that is their, I believe that's their 7th. And then next we have Discipline. Now, I think Beat falls in here somewhere, either before Red or after Red, or before Discipline or after Discipline, or maybe 3's a perfect pair. I can't remember exactly where it falls in, but I don't own that one. I tried to get it. Was the one, like they had almost all of the middle ones for sale in these things, and I bought them all, but there was one in there that I didn't have enough money to get them all, so I took one out, and I think it might have been that one. So this, again, another black cover with this one is a bit different, though. It's got a red album. So the first one that I own that has a red in it, which makes sense since it's called, oh no, this is Disciplines. Red is the other one. My apologies. So yeah, so I listened to this one. Same deal as I did with Red. Listened to it initially when I first got it. Yeah, I'm going to be turned into a full prog monster. That would be nice. So King Crimson's Discipline, another booklet. Of course, it's typical stuff here. All newspaper clippings. That seems to be their thing to do. Once again. So an appearing here, of course, Adrian, but this is the first one with a different lineup in it. So Adrian Ballou, guitar, lead vocals, Robert Fripp guitar and devices, Tony Levin on bass and stick, and Bill Bruford on percussion, or battery as they call it. So yeah, I listened to this one too. Kind of the same feel. I think this one is the first one that's very different from the ones with John Wetton on it. Adrian Belew's voice, quite a bit different. This one has the song Talk on it, I believe. Elephant Talk. Fantastic tune. One of my favorite. King Crimson. I didn't know which album it was on when I first bought the collection, so I was happy to see that it was on this one. Yeah, very different feel to this album. It's a more up-tempo album. A little bit almost got some of that new wave-ish stuff going on. Yeah, nothing like being a full prog monster. When you wait until my hair grows on my face. Maybe I'll grow my beard back and become the real prog monster I was at the beginning. My job requires me to be clean shaven. That's why I don't have my beard anymore. But maybe once I retire and I don't need to look the part of a gentleman, I can go back to looking the part of Gandalf. Yeah, so this particular album, I'm just looking for the release date on it. I believe this was the first one in the 80s. Yeah, it's like the worst part about these guys is they write everything so damn tiny, and even with my glasses on, I can't see nothing. I think it says 1981. So there's a picture of everybody. I do like this booklet form for this album. I like this album quite a bit. The color is very attractive with that silver writing on it. Yeah, very different sounding from the previous albums. Prog Monster by dinner time. Well, since I've eaten about a half dozen times today, it might be a little late on that one. Yeah, so this is a really solid album. Solid. Like I said, I like this Elephant Talk. Really good track. Some of the other tracks on here are quite good as well. I'm looking forward to its turn in the playlist when we get there. So the next album up is Three of a Perfect Pair. It's the same group of musicians on this as on this. Adrian Belew on voice, fretted and fretless guitars. Robert Fripp on guitar. Tony Levin on bass, stick, synth, and background voice. And Bill Bruford acoustic and electric drumming. So very different too. So you're going from this yellow look. This one also does not have the red disc in it. And no, I'm wrong. I thought maybe it was a fold-out, but it isn't. So there it is. It's a silver colored. It's when was this released? 84. So about 3 years after the last one. Another one, very similar sound to between this and this, I think. And it's because you basically got the same set of musicians here. Some good songs on here. I think there is a total of 9 tracks on this one, including the Lark's Tongues in Aspic Part 3. So they added a third part on this album to go with the first 2 parts on the other album on Lark's Tongues in Aspic Part 1. Yeah, there's definitely a new wave craze on this album. Lots of that here. I don't know if there's as much on here, but it does have a similar sound. But then again, I've only listened to these two initially, when I first got them, and then just once this week as well. So it might take a little bit more listening to get a real good feel for these albums. But I like it. I think these two are strong for me. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm not really sure I understand what you said, but if I've got 1,000, I'm okay with it. I'm happy to to get it. But to be honest with you, if I don't get them, it's fine. I'm still going to do this. I still like doing it. I still like talking to people. So it would be nice to have it. Maybe it'll contribute a little bit towards buying some more of the albums so that I can talk more about them. I also put up my Judas Priest poster up there, as you can see in the corner, from their Rocky Rolla album. So I'm going to go on to Thrack now. This is the last of the studio albums I have. Now, there are 3 other studio albums that I don't have, but I continue to look for them, as I always do. This has a lot of stuff on it, though, for a King Crimson album. 56 minutes and about 15 songs. No other album up until this point has had anything close to that. And this one's kind of different. It has all this stuff going on in the middle. I think this is the lyrics, and it's just the way they've put them together here. Very interesting. So this also has, I believe there are 6 musicians on this. I just want to look at the disc first. So the disc is kind of checkered. It's not the pink disc that I've come to expect as well. It's got its book. Yes, I was right. There are six musicians on this album altogether. Oh, I did get it once. I must not have seen it, and then somebody dropped off, and then I came on and didn't see it. It'll happen. I mean, I don't think I'll stay at $9.99 until the end of time or anything like that. Yeah, Adrian Belew, definitely a different sounding voice for King Crimson. I do like all the stuff he's on. On this album, there are 6 musicians. This is the only one with 6. Robert Fripp, guitars, soundscapes, and mellotron. Adrian Belew, guitar, voice, and words. Trey Gunn, stick, and backing vocals. Tony Levin, upright and electric basses, backing vocals. Pat Mastodolot. Oh, I'm not going to get it. Mastolato. Okay, had to calm myself to get it. Mastolato and Bill Bruford, both on acoustic and electric drums and percussion as well. I do kind of like the color scheme here. It's kind of a grayish feel to the album. So this one is a much later later album than the others, released in 2002. I think this might have been their last studio album. Could be wrong, but I think it might have been. Lots of good stuff on this. I've listened to this once. My biggest takeaway from this album, I've only listened to it the once. I never listened to it, and when I initially got it, for some reason I was busy and I never got to it, but I did listen to it. Yeah, either I got it and I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I did listen to it. Actually, today was the day I listened to this. Very heavy album, a lot heavier than a lot of their stuff. Almost a metal album at times on it. At least that's the way it feels for me. But it's really solid album. I think this one will become one of the ones I like quite a bit too. I'm hoping I'll end up liking them all. They're all quite a bit different though. So yeah, Thrack, the last studio album that I own. Okay, let's see what people are saying here. Their music, I think the reason that radio doesn't play their music is because it's not really friendly for radio. It's very, I find it the most difficult band of all the bands I've listened to penetrate. Their music is difficult to penetrate. You got to listen to it a lot, really, before it starts to have a kind of feel for it. Yeah, the 70s and 80s stuff is good. They did kind of got that new wave kind of feel on the Red album, I believe, or Discipline, sorry, on Discipline with Elephant Talk, which is definitely a new wave-ish type track. Yeah, they changed their style continuously, and Robert Fripp was never one to really concern himself about whether the albums were mainstream or not. He was constantly pushing the envelope of noises and sounds and developing. And when he got to a certain point and he wasn't producing anything that was new and there was no new sounds to be had, then he decided not to pursue any more albums. And as far as I can tell, he never will. He has enough guys together, he could easily do another album or two, and people would love to hear it, but he's not going to do it because the band has reached its zenith, in his opinion, I believe. So the other album I own is a live album. It's called the USA. Many people who follow King Crimson will know this album as being one of their better live albums. Got a lot of good stuff on here. I did like this album quite a bit. Once again, though, I think I actually prefer seeing King Crimson on a DVD as opposed to listening to them live. This one is actually blue. The cover has a booklet, of course. It's in a jewel case, which is nice. This one came out the same year as Thrack, and I'm not 100% sure what month Thrack came out in. This one says this came out in March 26th and 27th of 2002, so maybe it came out before. Just checking to see if there's any tracks that are common to both albums. I don't see any, but I'm sure somebody out there will know for sure. Hey, welcome to the show, Ben. Yeah, not many bands. I mean, a lot of bands that were in the 60s and 70s, as soon as the 80s came, a lot of them either went very commercial or just stopped making music altogether. So this one has, this one has David Cross, Robert Fripp, John Wetton, William Bruford on it. So I'm thinking it was pre-Thrack. I think maybe this came out second. So maybe it was a little bit early in the year and the other one was a little bit late. Yeah, Ben has his contributions to the channel, no doubt. And I'm glad to have him aboard. Yep, this is pretty good. But again, of course, it's the same stuff. The name change. The name of the game is change. Absolutely. When it comes to King Crimson, they never stay the same. Lots of good stuff on this album. I do like this live album quite a bit. It's got looks like 9 tracks in total, but I don't see anything from Thrack, so I'm thinking this came out before Thrack. So that's it. That's my entire King Crimson collection. That's what I own. 1 live album and 10 studio albums. So a pretty good, substantial amount of King Crimson discography I own. Obviously, there's a lot more live albums out there to get. I probably will get them over time, but it will take some time. Yeah, half of 0 is still 0, though, I'm afraid to tell you. But it's yeah, so it's a good collection of albums. I'm not sure where I will end up with King Crimson. They're a very difficult band to peg down. They're a top 30 band for me now, but I'm not sure if they'll stay there. They probably may drop a bit. I'm not quite sure. I still got like 4 or 5 of the discs I have that haven't even been in the playlist yet, so it might take some time before they move around too far up or down. Oh, I made it, eh? Finally made it to 1,000. I thank everybody who supports the channel. There's about a half a dozen guys who've been here almost since the beginning. Ben, of course, was one of them. Mr. King, the Triumph Man, he is one of them, of course. Neurophile, there's a few others. DB, who also is Australian. A lot of these guys. And then there's a lot of new people. Drucker, he supports my channel all the time. He's always watches. He loves the morning series, the monthly series. He loves that a lot. Oh, you're in Victoria, Australia. Okay. I've never been there. The closest I've been to Australia is New Zealand. I've been to New Zealand. And it's been very many years since I did that. Yep, I might grow my beard back just so I can fit into the monster scene again. They don't seem to care too much about whether I keep the beard or don't keep a beard now. I thought they were going to be very strict about it, but they don't seem to care. So I may grow the beard back when I get a next holiday. I've been thinking about it. It's what I had when I started. It kind of makes me look werewolfish. The bald werewolf, right? Funny how you can grow that much hair on your face, but you can't get it to grow on your head, right? Yeah, I think I might do something with Pink Floyd. I definitely will be doing something. Is this their 60th year? I guess it is, right? Wow, 1965. I forgot about that. It's already that time period, eh? I am going to be starting another live stream. I'm kind of targeting it for the middle of this month, but it's going to be so we're going to have this one Sunday night at 8, which will continue. The other one will go Sunday night at Sunday morning at 8. So I'm going to have one at 8 in the morning, one at 8 in the evening. The other one will be only bi-weekly, though. I won't do it every week just because I'm not sure if I will be able to commit that much time. But I will do it every second week for a while and see how it flies. If it flies well, then we'll try to get it out there every week as well. And this one's going to be called The Hammer of the Gods, which is going to be basically on hard rock and heavy metal, which is my other love. So we'll be doing that. And I think that'll please Ben because I think he loves that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, you're right about that. Things are changing. Yeah, Canadian werewolf, but I'm not in Toronto anymore. I'm afraid to tell you. I'm in the sticks out here in Kitchener, at least until the end of next year, and then I probably will be over towards the border in Sarnia. Yes, we have our country and its infinite wisdom back in the 70s, or I think it was maybe in the 80s. We used to celebrate our national holiday on Queen Victoria's birthday, which was the 24th of May. But then we decided that we would do something in July. So we became our national holiday is on July the 1st. For no particular reason. There's no significance to the date of anything. I guess we wanted to be close to the American date so we can get people crossing the border back and forth and make money off it. That's the only reason I can think of. Can't think of any other reason why they would do that particular date. But that's Canada. We don't seem to know what we're doing anymore. Yeah, so we have our holiday is Tuesday this week, 1st of July, which will be our anniversary, which I think is, I'm trying to think what year. I think it's our 160th anniversary, I believe, of the Confederation. We didn't have an Independence Day like they have in the States. We are still under the umbrella of the United Kingdom, although I don't think we answer to any of their laws anymore. I think pretty much that's all gone. It's just more of a figure thing than anything else. I don't know if it's the same in Australia because Australia, Canada, India, New Zealand were all part of the Commonwealth. Yeah, it's the Canadian birthday. Well, at least that's what we call it, even though it really is the 24th of May. Well, Trudeau's gone, but his replacement, maybe not so good. but I don't want to get into politics because that's just another thing for a different channel. Yeah, I figured it was the same in Australia for Ben. Australians, very, very similar to, I think the Australians are actually a little bit more like the Americans than we are. Yeah, they have a similar kind of mindset that they do in the US, not as, we tend to be a little bit more British in our ways. So that's it for my King Crimson stuff for tonight. I hope you people enjoyed all of that. So a couple of new things. There will be the new live stream, which will come out probably a week from next Sunday, a Sunday morning. The show is going to be called Hammer of the Gods, and this will be a heavy metal, hard rock channel show that we will talk about some aspect, and I actually have something in mind for the first episode, which I want to finalize in my head before I make an announcement about it. Also, we'll be moving that. Probably we'll leave that show Sunday morning, I'm believing. We'll also be moving a couple of the shows that are on Thursday nights, which are the split shows, I call them. They're going to move to Saturday afternoon, and I'm going to leave that spot open for some other thing that I have in mind. Yeah, we're pretty much the same. Australia, Canada, same thing. We grew up watching US film and listening to UK music. Yeah, they certainly do. They do. Where are you from, Grandizer? Are you British? I see Ben has changed his kind of picture logo thing. It's just a B now. I can't even remember what it was before. Yeah, so that's the only real changes I think I'm going to do in the next month or two is move the Thursday night bi-weekly shows to Saturday afternoon once the album wars are over, and then I'm going to do something else on Thursday night. I have some ideas, but once they're firm in my head, then I'll bring them up. Oh, so you are from the U.S., from Arizona even. There's a place I'd like to visit and stay permanently. It's a little bit too cold in the winter here for me. So the new series that will be running for July, my favorite 1969 albums, will of course start and run pretty much the same as all the other series, coming out at 8 in the morning, one per day. I'm going to do it in reverse though. It'll be my 31st to my first. I'm going to probably say the first half dozen to 8 or 10 albums will all be fairly interchangeable because most of them I either have listened to quite a bit over the years but haven't owned, or owned and haven't listened to. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I went through the list today and kind of finalized it. So I'll probably be starting the first one. I'll probably do the first one tomorrow night. Is there? Yeah, there's quite a few of my earlier stuff. A lot of the look back at a classic rock albums, like maybe about half of the first ones I did, maybe the first 50 or so. I think I would like to redo them because I didn't really give, and a lot of them are classic ones that I love. That I didn't really say much about because I wasn't quite sure how much to say and how much not to say. So a lot of those I will probably eventually redo. I'm not sure when I'm going to redo them, but eventually we'll redo some of them. Yeah, I would say the first 30 to 50 in that period. Then once I got past that first year or so, I started getting an idea of what to talk about and what not to talk about and what's important, what isn't important. I like to break the songs down and talk about how they fit into the albums and the general overall view of the album. Where back in that day, I just would talk about what I liked and didn't. So there are quite a few that will probably have to be redone. Bands that have changed my mind on, I'd say there's at least a half dozen. The Doors probably being one of the biggest ones. I didn't really think that much of the Doors when I started the channel. Never really did think much of the Doors. And then one day I just woke up. I think it started when I went yard sailing one day and bought a box of CDs, and in there was the entire Doors collection. So then I started saying, well, I got them all. I might as well listen to them. Okay, I was wondering about that, Ben, but I figured I would look it up and then it would answer itself. I'm not familiar with the song or the bands, really. The Allman Brother, I don't know much about Molly Hatchet. I do know who they are, but the Allman Brothers, I've always kind of, I don't necessarily dislike them or anything. I just kind of steered clear of them because I always think of them as a jam band, and I've never been big on jam bands. And there isn't that I dislike any of the jam bands, because in order to dislike something, you got to listen to it, and I just never listened to them. Well, I had the YouTube site for about four or 5 years, just so I could look at stuff, but I never did anything until August the 1st of 2021. That was my first episode. So it's been almost 4 years now. Yeah, that's the problem with the album challenges, is that you got to really, to get a good feel for an album, I think you got, most people can get it in 5 or 6 listens. I take about 10 or 12 or more. That's why I tend to leave the albums that I do for the look back at a classic rock album, the ones that are in my playlist. I usually wait about 5 months before I actually do them. By that time, I feel comfortable enough to say that I like or don't like them. Yeah, I like the Doors now. I did not like them for decades. And a lot of it, I think, was people pushing them on me. And all I heard was that keyboard that I couldn't stand. Not the keyboard player. He was good at what he did. I had no problem with him. I just didn't like the sound of the keyboard he was using. It sounded kind of almost like the Gong Show type keyboard type thing. So I just didn't warm up to it. But once I got the albums, I started listening to them. It's different when you're listening to albums than it is when you're just listening to songs off the radio. If you don't like something that comes on the radio, you just turn it. But when you're listening to an album, it's in the, so you're doing stuff around the house, and then it just kind of seeps into you, I guess. And as far as Janis Joplin go, I do like her. I like her voice, and I like some of the stuff she sings. Some of the stuff I'm not crazy about. It's too bluesy. I don't seem to have the interest in blues that I once had when I was younger. Kind of moved away from that, I guess. Yeah, and Janis Joplin is a hard swallow for most people. I guess she kind of goes into the same category as Neil Young and what's his name? I can't even think of his name right now. How does it feel like a rolling stone? Yeah, got a hard voice to take. To me, a jam band is a band that starts out playing a song, and somewhere during the song they go into a multitude of soloing, and everybody's just soloing for about half of the song, and then they finish the song out. That's to me a jam band. The songs are just there so they can jam. They're not. That's the way I look at jam bands, and I think both the two bands that come to mind mostly on that are the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers. Those are the two bands that come to mind for me when I think of jam bands, and I'm sure there's others too. Just those are just the two that come to mind right off the bat. So how old are you, Grandizer? Since we're asking. Yeah, well, there's just the problem with people with Janis Joplin that like Janis Joplin is they love her and they can't understand why anybody wouldn't want to listen to her. To be honest, I've always liked her. I like her sound of her voice. I like the songs she sings. She just is a very unique sound. Nobody sounds like her. Hello, Wade. Thanks for joining. Yeah, a lot of people say that about Jim Morrison and that. I don't like the stuff that he when he starts reading his poetry and stuff. I could do without that, but the songs are like really good. I really like a lot of the stuff they do. They don't sound really like anybody else. There's nobody else doing what they're doing, really. And they're all good instrumental players. Just I don't really care for the keyboard, but I've kind of warmed up to it. It doesn't bother me as much as it once did. Yeah, the holding company. I actually like that. I actually own that album, so I do like that album. It's pretty good. 68, man, you've been around longer than me. But that's okay. You've probably been to a lot of stuff that I didn't get to see and hear until later too. Yeah, he doesn't do the music because he's a vocalist. He's got a good voice though. I like his voice a lot. Um, I always wondered what he would have sounded like playing with Led Zeppelin. Just a strange case, but he get off my lawn, JK. Yeah, so yeah, I always wondered what he would sound if he played with others. He's kind of a quirky individual though, or he was a quirky individual. I know there's a lot of people say he's still alive, but he isn't. He's gone. He's a goner. I seen the documentary on him and what happened. He was gone. People like that, they just don't live very long. They have a death wish almost, right? They just can't stay away from stuff that kills them. But still, the especially that debut album by the Doors is just absolutely fantastic. But they've got a sprinkling of fantastic stuff on every album, and a lot of their stuff, probably more than most bands, gets played regularly on channels all the time. There's a lot of big hits from them. I often wonder if he had stayed with the band, what they would have sounded like in the '70s, and and then going into the '80s, because a lot of bands change. I kind of wonder what would have happened if Zeppelin had stayed together. Would they have gone off on some weird tangent in the '80s like everybody else? I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people see her as a screamer, but she's got a very harsh voice. Almost, she could easily, um, to me, when I think of her, I think of Brian Johnson. I think of Lemmy from Motorhead. They just got that really raspy voices. Even Jay, Freddie Turner from BTO, kind of the same thing going on there. Real raspy voices, real gravelly stuff, right? Her voice was more raspy than any of the others, though, I think. Probably the most raspy of anybody out there. I don't know that you're probably right. They probably couldn't have evolved. I don't know where they would have evolved to. And the music that they were playing, which was great, that stuff was going to kind of fade a bit over time. It's dated. I find their music kind of dated. It sounds like the time period, so I can't see them doing that stuff going into the 80s. I don't know that they could have become commercial. It's hard to say. You never know what way a band's going to go. You know, you just never know what they're going to sound like. Who would have thought Rush would sound like they did on Farewell to Kings, and then sound completely different on Power Windows? Like it just completely different. It sounds like Rush, like all of them sound like Rush, but just completely different set of songs, right? And maybe they would have adjusted. I don't know. Hard to say. Yeah, I don't think they would have survived. And to be honest with you, they were so successful. Their albums sold so much, and they had so many hit singles that it's almost a certainty that if Jim Morrison had gotten his act together, he was going to go on his own for sure. If they'd stayed together, I think they probably would have done well through the 70s. It's just what would have happened to them once they got into the 80s. Hard to say. Yeah, I agree with you, Wade. Lemmy's voice kind of shitty. Um, does it suit the Motorhead? I think it probably does. More to me, people always think of Motorhead as a metal band, but I never really think of them as a metal band. To me, they're a punk band, a hard punk band with metal sounds in their music. That's the way I've always thought of them, and his voice kind of suits that kind of punky feel to their music. I did prefer his voice on when he was with Hawkwind. Maybe the style of the Hawkwind music made me like his voice more. I'm not sure. It's kind of like Peter Hamill. So there's a band called Amorphous Androgynous that he did the vocals with on that album, and I like that album a lot. And I liked his vocals on that album, but I cannot listen to him at all with Vandergraaf Generator. I just 10 minutes into a Vandergraaf album, and I'm like pulling my hair out. And as you can see, I did a good job. Yeah, I can't listen to the guy. He just is too much for me. Maybe it'll change in time. I did kind of warm up to Eloy's Frank Borman. I didn't like him at first either, but kind of warmed up to the sound of his voice. Kind of suits the music. I wouldn't even know what it would sound like without that kind of voice in it. But yeah, no, I'm just not a big fan of. Well, I'm not a Motorhead fan. I don't own anything by them. Don't have any real interest in following them. It's just the way it is. So I'm done with my King Crimson collection. It was good for me to do this because I got to listen to the albums again. The top half of this, so these albums I've already listened to quite a bit. These ones I still have to go in my playlist over time. I think out of a guess, if I'm going to have to guess here, I would say these two will end up being the two that I like the most of the ones going forward. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens here. But so next week, I haven't decided what I'm going to do, but I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to do this. A couple of Rush albums are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. I was going to do them separate shows, but I think I'm going to do them together. We're kind of about halfway between their release dates. So Fly By Night early in the spring and Caress of Steel in the fall, almost end of the summer anyways. So I think I'm going to do it in the middle between the two so I can talk about both of them because it's their 50th anniversary. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing for next week's Into the Progverse. And then we'll also, the following week, we will have Into the Progverse, but we'll also have the new live stream, which will be called Hammer of the Gods, which will be a metal show. Metal, hard rock, probably more hard rock than metal, actually, but we'll see what happens. And Ben's probably right. The Doors in the 80s, I could see them staying around in the 70s. They could adjust their sound a little bit and still fit in there fairly well, but maybe not at all in the 80s. Hard to say, though. Yeah, I don't even know what they sound like now. I know that there's 3 different guys that are performing their music now, so it's kind of weird, but there's going to be a lot of that going forward. A lot of these, what we'll call avatar bands, basically have no original members or no classic members. It'll just be people that have come in and joined at certain times in their history and have maintained. The most obvious one is Foreigner, I think. Foreigner, they're still out there doing their stuff, but there's nobody left in the band, really. I think Leonard Skinner's the same way. Maybe I'm wrong there. Well, I hope not. Yeah, it's just as well that they didn't survive if they're going to be like Aerosmith in the 80s. That would not be a good scene. In fairness to Aerosmith, I don't mind Pump and I don't mind Get a Grip, but the rest of them I could live without. But anyway, so we will be doing the live stream next Sunday night, and it'll probably feature both of the 2 Rush's albums, Fly By Night and Caress of Steel, who will be celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. And then the following week, we will do the first of the Hammer of the Gods shows, which will come on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. And I kind of have an idea what I want to do there, but I'm going to set them up now so that I can get to them. I probably will have to wait for a bit. I've got one more baseball thing to sort out before I get to that. Yeah, Aerosmith, there's maybe a song or 2 on those albums, but nothing really memorable, or they just got way too poppy, and they just like the ballad kings of the 80s and 90s. I think they're the one band that you have to say they all sobered up and their music went to the tank. So I think they were better when they were all high as kites. Anyways, I'm on my way, guys. I appreciate you showing up here tonight and supporting the channel. And apparently now I have 1,000 subscriptions, so we have arrived at the Golden Gate. Now we have to see if St. Peter will let us in. Anyways, thank you all. Take care, and we will see you next week here on Into the Progverse on the Prog Monster. So take care and good night. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button here.